Stick 'em, ha ha ha, stick 'em. Stick 'em, ha ha ha, stick 'em. Stick 'em, ha ha ha, stick 'em. Gonna run the beatbox and the best fucking rhythm.
So, Apollo 18. Well, I prefer Wallace and Gromit on the moon. Alright. Like a gaudy mockery of a car, this review comes with spoilers. Apollo 18 is a substandard, run-of-the-mill, middle-of-the-road, lowest common denominator space story starring 3 doomed actors and the camera from the Blair Witch Project. I think it's also a new colour on the deluxe colour wheel, representing perfect grey. Advertised as a sort of documentary on the moon, all illusion of that linchpin was destroyed when I recognised the actors. So, story. Young Indiana Jones's dad, Raiden, and the guy from the Magic Flute Diaries are asked to do a secret mission in the name of national security, American pie, and everything that's good. In the opening credits, we're introduced to our walking buffet carts of the day, with images of their wives and girlfriends, a sure sign that they're going to be dead before the day is out. I heard a joke that went like this film once. An Englishman, Irishman, and a Scotsman enter a bar, and the whole scene unfolds with a depressing inevitability. When they land on the moon, they put up yet another American flag, salute, and proceed to do what every American does on land that he puts a flag in. Fuck things up and die horribly, then attempt to run away. Then they find an apocryphal dead communist in his communist ship, and a bunch of rocks which keep moving when no one's looking. In communist Russia, pod escape you. You know, you'd think they'd make a bigger deal of it, because they announce to people when you're going somewhere like the moon. But then, I get the feeling that this film isn't for people who respond to petty things like logic. As the advertising may suggest, the reason that we didn't go back to the moon wasn't the lack of interest and funding, or that we've been meaning to but can't seem to get the days off, but rather something shocking, something horrible. Something to make the posters interesting and the film worth your money. However, given the setup, I wasn't exactly going to strap myself in for this, though the letdown was still pretty surprising. So, knowing that they now share the solar system's largest parking lot with some communist without a disabled badge and some unknown horror, now would be a good time to blast off. It seems so, but wouldn't you know it, the convenience ferry is outside dicking with the motor in an attempt to get extra miles out of this movie. At this stage, I still actually had hopes that this would be a remake of the 1990s game about the 1960s Astro-Cold War called Battlezone. You even get to lead the attacks, better yet. For those of you who don't know, Battlezone is a brilliantly well-developed and lovingly narrated universe, where arrested citizens were given the choice of jail, Vietnam, or fighting Russians on the moon, unfortunately not a euphemism for being on LSD trials. It's made as a first-person ground-based strategy game, where you get to witness the awesome spectacle of astronauts and cosmonauts duking it out on Mars. So when they also found a Russian lander complete with dead Russian, I had higher hopes. But then I saw a rock wobble and thought, oh no, it's one of those. I could expect half an hour of them discussing how it wasn't what we all thought it was, you know, because we've all seen the rock wobble by this stage, and someone fucking around with shadow puppets in order to psych out the actors. As soon as I saw that they were trying to develop atmosphere, which is hard on the moon, I knew it was going to take forever for a pretty weak payoff. Unlike 4 other people I counted, I stayed in the theatre to see it through. I was actually hoping it would be another cosmonaut with infinite air just being a jerk and knocking their flag over, but then we found the reason was... wait for it. Moon crabs. Yes, they're serious. Thankfully though, this problem is easily solved with moon gel and a moon comb and oh wait, no. Instead they get in the ship disguised as samples. Once inside, they start crawling around like Hugh Grant in search of work. Strange how all the previous programs never found this problem with their moon rocks. Maybe moon crabs are allergic to first-time visitors and golfing. Either way, having survived quite happily in a complete vacuum with no moisture or meatbag astronauts to feed on, they now decide the best place to live is a nice, damp, meaty, warm ribcage. Follow token scene of people removing the rock from sternum. Having removed the rock from uncredited astronaut number 1, the aforementioned astronaut then smashes the rock with a big silver hammer.
Bang, bang, Maxwell silver hammer came down on his head.
However, it turns out that he is infected. Because, you know, he needs to be infected. You know, just once, I'd like to see a horror film where all the characters survive. I'm not sure I'd handle it. The prospect is in fact more horrifying than people getting killed. Because it's a horror film, we're desensitised to the idea that they're going to die from the beginning. So if everyone survived, it would be shocking and unexpected. Before anyone mentions the Amityville Horror, I don't actually class that as a horror. And actually the part at the end with Father Catchem, well, read Neil Gaiman's Smoke and Mirrors short story about writing for Hollywood and you'll see what I'm on about. I cannot explain it much better than that. Anyway, Walker is infected, goes mad and starts smashing things up.
Bang, bang, Maxwell silver hammer made sure that he was dead.
They can't launch, so they run back to the Russian launcher. Who didn't see that one coming? The only problem is that the other astronaut failed to take the hammer off Commander Walker. So he's now wandering around with the hammer in his hand. He has just witnessed him nearly kill them both with it, and he is letting him keep it like a comfort blanket. Take the hammer off him, he is using it for evil. Then he wanders off, the other Doom meatbag gets in the Russian launcher, MC Hammer comes back to smash it up, but then his face explodes. But of course. And the Russian launcher and American orbiter crash into each other. Question time. Why didn't the Russians mention their moon mission? How did the footage get back if we've never been back to the moon? Why didn't they degrade due to the decades of exposure to cosmic rays? Did they expect us to buy this? Regarding crabs, what do they eat? What do they survive on? Did they expect us to buy this? What are they camouflaging from when they disguise as rocks? Did they expect us to buy this? In the closing credit they try and address some of these questions, moreover one of them by saying that half the moon rocks which came back are now missing, forgetting the fact of course that they are more valuable than diamonds. Most of this film was obviously spurred by someone recently getting caught selling a moon rock for $1.2 million in a cafe somewhere in Missouri. However, if the rock had eaten her, crawled around, or was kept in a cat container, I think someone would have noticed. Before the opening credits, I was already aware that NASA had abandoned being part of this project, citing that the documentary style and illusion of truth portrayed the missions with a light that they weren't happy with, which was far nicer than saying that they read the script and thought it would suck. Arguably, the recent probe footage of the moon couldn't have come at a worse time for the advertising of this film, releasing pictures with beautiful accuracy of the moon's surface with such detail that you can make out the lunar rover, and even the bonnet laden with 40 years of Martian parking tickets.
Boom, boom.